Welcome to Tips Over Tea. This is season 2. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to have great conversations with some amazing people. And I have the opportunity to hang out with you guys again, my guests. Make sure you have your tea, whether it be hot or cold, for the Tips Over Tea. And make sure you have your notebook so you can take plenty of notes. And if you're so inclined, bring a friend or two to join you. For now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So this week is just going to be you and it's going to be me having a conversation. At 5 a.m. on my channel, I do meditations, silent meditation, because I practice transcendental meditation. But I invite you, if you need um, accountability for your meditation practice, because it's not necessarily one of those things that initially you're like, oh, I need to go meditate, or I get to go meditate. But the more you do it, you're like, I get to go meditate. So if you just need an accountability partner, that's what I show up there for. And of course, since it's recorded, you can run at the same time every day if you need to, but mine runs at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. Um, and the reason I'm sharing that is because the conversation for today is based on what I started doing there. There was one morning that I just noticed my deck of cards and I started just reading a card right before we go into meditation. And it was just something that I felt moved to do. So I did it. It could be, I suggested it could be the prompt for that morning's meditation, or it could be a prompt for a journal, or it can just be ignored, however it best serves you. And I was pulling from this 52 card deck, Self Care Wisdom Cards by Cheryl Richardson, and artwork by Joe Podmore. Want to shout out to her too. Um, and as I was going through them, which that was the first time I had actually gone through that deck, is during the meditation. As I was going through them, there were times where I'm like, this would be a good conversation on tips over tea. So here we are. I already have the cards because I just recorded it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share what the card says. I'll share what comes up for me as I read it. Who knows what will come up? This will, at this point, have been the third time I've read this card because I did it in meditation. I did it a moment ago, and we'll do it now. Um, so I'm going to share what comes up for me. Give me one sec. Okay. Share what comes up for me as I read it. And then I'm also inviting you because, I don't have a guest today. So I'm inviting you to participate, share what comes up for you. If you have any tips that could benefit other people, because that's the point of this show, right? What tips do you have regarding whatever the topic of conversation is? And so I'm going to go through the cards. We'll see if, like the last time I recorded this, a second ago, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got through 5 cards. We'll see if we get through all 5 again, because I want to respect your time. We'll do it within 30 minutes. And just keep an eye on this mic. I have 2. Uh, so I guess the other one I hadn't charged yet. So my bad. All right. First card is entitled Sovereign. And it reads, you are the queen of your life. I'll say king or queen person. Treat yourself like royalty. So the biggest thing is treat yourself like royalty. The tip I have for that, or what comes to mind, is 1, define what royalty means to you, not what it means to someone else. What does it mean to you? Why that's important is because actually it'll fall in line with another one of these cards. I got a cheat sheet. It's important because living your soul's creative purpose is dependent upon you hearing your own inner guidance. So, treat yourself like royalty. After you define it, what steps are you going to take to do that? Why are you going to do that? Knowing the why behind it, like, why would you do that for yourself, is also helpful because it can help inspire you to make sure you accomplish that. You make sure you do whatever that is that you decide um, gives you the ability to treat yourself like royalty. So, last time I was recording this, I forgot to drink my tea, so I'm gonna drink more tea. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and you know, get your get your get your tips that you have for someone else. Second card, space. The quality of your life has more to do with what you remove from it than what you add to it. Give yourself the gift of space. So I'm going to, again, approach these cards from whatever comes through right now. Give yourself the gift of space. Because I live a lot in the energetic world, of course, not of course, but naturally, the gift of space comes, the energetic side of things come to mind for me. So things carry energy. Things carry energy. I don't know if you've ever picked up something that would belong to someone else and can kind of feel the energy that's attached to it. Um, things carry energy. So, gift of space. What comes to mind is decluttering. If you have clutter in the home, clutter at the office or the home office. If you have, of course, mental clutter, that's the part that I love to dig into and get that stuff out. Um, releasing the mental clutter, the clutter invites either the right stuff that's for your higher self, or for the higher good. It lets universe, God, know that you are ready to receive, or it just gives you that sense of freedom for not having that stuff there, and you can move more freely. Like, it just, because I've experienced this, is why I'm like reliving it right now. As I decluttered, actually, as I did more decluttering of my mind, my house, it was like I can't. It was harder to tolerate the clutter that I had. So there, there is a correlation. A cluttered mind is a cluttered home. So it's like, what, um, that might be a place to start. If you recognize that you have clutter in different areas that you're like, do I really need this here? And if it's hard for you to get rid of some of the things, then it could very well be something internally that needs to be released first. So that's something to think about. And it can improve the quality of life, especially the, um, I forgot to change the screen, especially the mental clutter. Because what the mental clutter will do, or what it does, is it clouds your ability to make decisions that are completely in alignment with your highest good, because you're coming from it behind a veil of traumas and hurts and whatever. And it could even just be really good times and that you're still holding on to, the energy of. So that can prevent you from experiencing an even greater time in the current moment. So uh, that's what comes to me from that card, regarding that card. Security is the next one. True security comes from having a reserve of time, space, energy, personal power, and love. Make deposits in all of these accounts, and you'll be a wealthy person indeed. True security comes from having a reserve of time, space, energy, personal power, and love. Make deposits in all of these accounts, and you'll be a wealthy person indeed. So let's go through these one by one. Having a reservation, and by reservation, I don't mean hesitation, I mean reserving a reserve, extra, abundant. One thing that comes to mind for the time piece of it is, especially for the spontaneous people who don't like repetitive things, if you have something that is repetitive, say you go into the office for work or you go into your personal office and you tend to lose your keys or something like that, those types of things, to reserve some of your time, to get some of your time back, having the keys in a set place all the time, already know what you're going to wear that next day. If you take lunch with you, already have that packed and ready to just grab and go. Like however long it takes normally to look for the keys, to figure out what to wear, to pack a lunch, that could be a whole hour or more of time that you've reserved by, or you've gotten back from preparing that stuff ahead of time. And can you imagine what you could do with another hour? You could rest more, you could relax more, you could work out, you could do your meditation. There's just so many things. You connect with people and time. So yeah, reserve some time. That's what comes to mind for that one. Reserving space is kind of like a little bit of what we talked about in the previous card. Um, but having a reservation of space, getting some space back. To me, what I feel is stepping away from people and having some solitude for a little bit. Especially if you're familiar with human design and all of your open centers, you're absorbing and amplifying other people's energy who have those centers defined. Just to clear those centers, you need to be at least 6 feet away from someone. So, removing yourself from people from time to time to give yourself some space enables you to kind of like what I was talking about in another card, gives you the time to like actually hear your higher self and make better, clearer decisions. Um, I keep checking the mic. Um, Clearer decisions and that are for your highest good. And when you do that for yourself, it's like the airplane thing, right? Putting the mask on yourself first, and then everyone you can help other people. So that's what I get when I think of getting some space back. And this kind of also falls in line with getting energy back when you separate, from people and give yourself that gift of solitude, that gift of space, then you can restore your energy. I get that extroverts feed off of each other. However, even extroverts need to extract some of the extra energy that they've taken in because it's a different type of energy. So, the other thing that comes to mind for getting some of your energy back is your consumption. The food you eat, some of them make you sluggish, some of them will make you feel good. Um, the company you keep, some people will make you feel sluggish, some people will make you feel good. And that's not to say that the people who drain your energy aren't, you just need to ignore them or whatever. I'm a fan of loving people from afar. Like you do you. When you get up here, we can have a conversation. Because one, you only have so much energy. And allowing it to be spent trying to drag somebody who doesn't want to come is just not a good use of your energy or time. And it does not serve anyone because they're kicking and screaming and you are exhausting yourself. They're getting exhausted just from fighting. So it's like, why? So, yes, the company you keep, and then your feed, the consumption of media that you have, social media, news outlets, whatever have you. As I was studying about grief, because I do work with grief and trauma as well, one of the things I hadn't really thought about, like I know that I don't like to watch the news because they are the worst at putting the most devastating stuff on. They just share all the stuff that's just like, it's like they want people to be sad all the time. So I don't watch it. Like the world could end tomorrow and I would not even know it and I'd be just as happy because I didn't even know it was coming. Um, but of course, you guys still stay informed to some degree. But anyway, when I was studying grief, I learned about like the microaggressions, the micro grief that happens and it builds up in your system. So you see all these devastating things that you can't do anything about, and even though you don't take, not necessarily, some of you might. I was the one, I would like take it on right there. Like if I saw it, I just would immediately go down. But those of you who don't like go all the way down, it's still seeping into your energetic field and your energy body. And it's creating micro griefs. And unprocessed grief is one of the most harmful, toxic energies that can be in your body. And so being very intentional about what you consume is freaking vital to your health. So there's that. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that was a tangent or what, but that, yeah, you can tell I have some. Like I care about that. Having reserve of personal power. What comes to mind for having a reserve of personal power is setting boundaries. I know people don't typically like to do that. They feel like it requires being mean or depriving someone of something or whatever. But if you think about it, if you've experienced this, like someone has overstepped a boundary, they don't know it. You get annoyed and angry, they're confused. Like I Isn't that more painful than just expressing what you expect, prefer, like, whatever have you? Isn't it more painful for y'all to have this conflict and this confusion and this poor communication issues? In my opinion, it is. So if you can express like expectations, you treat people how to treat you and respond to you and things like that, and vice versa. Like that's what comes to mind for personal power, expressing like expectations, boundaries, and things like that. And also likes, dislikes. Um, those are the things that come to mind. Even though that's more aligned with throat chakra. But personal power is also being in alignment with what you want to do, what you're choosing to do, and putting yourself first to the degree that you know what you're doing is going to ultimately serve others, not in a selfish way, which sometimes people feel like they're being selfish if they're putting themselves first. That's not the case. And then having a reserve of love. This here, I kind of alluded to it, right? Um, Self love, in my opinion, and the biggest thing that I would love to work on with people is their relationship with themselves. Because if you don't love yourself, appreciate yourself, understand your value, you invite so many exhausting scenarios, situations, and people in your life, right? If you unconsciously feel like you don't deserve something, you will accept whatever. If you unconsciously don't feel lovable, you will accept relationships that prove that you're not lovable. Prove isn't the right word. Will make you think it's proving that you're not lovable, but what in actuality is just what you're choosing to accept because that's the level of love you think that you deserve. So when you elevate and recognize that you are a freaking miracle, you are amazing, you're a beautiful human being, and you deserve high vibrational love, which is unconditional. And by unconditional, I mean people know and still love your quote unquote flaws and love and know your quirks. Like they love you despite all of that. Like everybody deserves that. Everybody can have that. But you got to believe that you deserve it and accept nothing less. So that's also personal power, right? Um, what I do know from studying, of course, brain brain health, trauma, um, a lot of psych stuff, neurology stuff. What I do know is that if your unconscious believes one thing and your conscious believes another, your unconscious is going to win 9 out of 10 times. So I want to be married. I want a relationship. I want kids. Unconscious, that's your conscious self. Your unconscious is like, nobody will ever love me. I'm not lovable. I would not be a good blah, blah, blah. Like, and You don't really know that that's there, but there's evidence of it in the type of relationships and scenarios you attract. My gift to the world is my ability to help you transmute that energy, release it from your system so that your vibration raises and you attract the type of stuff you actually consciously want. I love that. I love doing that. I love doing that. So that's something to just, that's my tip really from this card. I forgot I was giving tips. My tip from this card in particular is um, start paying attention to the scenarios and situations and people you attract, not in a way of like, oh my goodness, this again, in a way of curious, like with a curious mind. Like, what is it in me that's attracting this? What is it in me that consistently attracts this type of thing? If it happens every now and then, it's whatever. It's probably just a brief lesson that you need to learn. But if it's a consistent, you keep attracting abusive people, you keep attracting verbally, physically abusive people, you keep attracting, you keep losing your job, you can't keep just things like that that are not your birthright, that are not ideal. Just start paying attention to that. That can help you know what might need to be addressed. I'm really good at connecting dots between a past occurrence and current situations. Um, and that's what helps me be able to clear the stuff out so that you don't experience those type of situations in that capacity. Like if you, after it's cleared, if that type of situation comes, you get to witness yourself not be the same person you were before. And it's a beautiful thing. Okay. The next card, authenticity. See, authenticity. And it says, live life for you, not the audience in your head. Live life for you, not the audience in your head. I don't think I'm gonna get through the other card. Maybe, we'll see. I kind of spoke on this a little bit, um, but when I just, there's apparently a book out there that my clients keep referencing. They haven't named the book, but they recite stuff from it that say that that says, I should be in this place by this age, I should have this by this time, I should blah blah blah. I don't know where that book is, but I tell them whatever book it is, they need to burn it because a it's not a helpful book. It's really just a book of you comparing yourself to someone else, and there's absolutely no comparison between your amazingness and someone else's amazingness because all of from birth until today, y'all have had completely different experiences because even if y'all did the exact same thing from birth until today, you will still have different experiences because you have different brains, different physiologies, different um, nature type stuff, like the way your parents exposed you to things or taught you things or whatever, that what you learned in school, all of the influence that you've had, you can't compare yourself. So when someone tries to help you create a life for yourself by sharing what you should be doing, that's the audience in your head. Like if you hear yourself saying should, all of that feedback and support that you were receiving up until this point from other people is the audience in your head. This is where that whole giving yourself space comes in handy. That space is needed so you can actually hear yourself and hear your guidance and hear your higher self and hear your God and hear your spiritual beings and your guides and all of that so that you are living your life for you. And this is again that analogy of putting your mask on first and then you can help other people. Because if you don't, you're trying to help. Go ahead and hold your breath and try to help someone lift up something heavy. You might pop a button, right? So give yourself some breathing room, some space, and allow yourself to just really understand who you are, what you want to do, what you want to be, what steps you need to take, and then take that and stay focused. That's where also some of that personal power comes into play. And I can go ahead and do this in the last card. Happiness, 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 happiness. Can you see? Can you see? Your thinking will either make your happiness or take your happiness. Your thinking will either make your happiness or take your happiness. What I am going to say about this, and actually, I probably should have waited. I might even have to pick this up in the next one. I understand, because remember we talked about did we talk about it or was it the chemical makeup? If you've spent most of your life, 20 plus years like I did, in a depressed, self-loathing, negative self-talk state, and you try to shift over to the upper elevated version of you, the real version of you, and you find yourself slipping constantly, it's not your fault. Because what's happening is every time you think a thought, chemicals are released into your body. So imagine 20, 30 years of negative thoughts. The chemicals that are associated with it are your body's norm. They are constantly circulating through your body. That is your norm. So you have those thoughts, and your body's like, oh, okay, this is where we live. And then you just are like over it. Like, I'm done being there. There's got to be more than life, and you're right. And so you shift and you start to live in more gratitude, and you start to notice where things are not as bad as they seemed, and then you fall back. It's because your body's like, even if that is better for me, I don't recognize it, so danger. We're not doing that. And so it produces scenarios or situations to bring you back to what it considers homeostasis, what it considers to be your norm. It's doing that to protect you. So if you're here and you find yourself falling, one, give yourself grace. Two, understand what's going on internally, chemically, neurochemically. Like, you have these pathways that you created that say, I hate myself. And now you're trying to create a new pathway that says, I love myself. But if you've been digging, I hate myself for years, that trench is pretty deep. You got a lot of filling up to do. Now, what I will say, that I've discovered, and once I started doing energy work, is you can pretty much speed that time up, that timeline. If you do it organically and you're just shoveling and putting in positivity on a regular basis, it will work. It will get you there. Just the energy clearing get you there faster, because all that energy associated with those thoughts and those scenarios can be lifted and removed and released quicker. Um, and it gives you the ability to stay in this place longer and more often, and also not judge yourself for the times that you do fall back. So that's one thing. So thinking your thinking can either make or take your happiness. It's true, but you also have to know where you're coming from, where your starting point is, what you're working with. And in human design, as most of us have in emotional solar plexus defined, you're going to have energy waves of emotion anyway. You're going to be elated one day and sad another day and blah another day and neutral another. It's like that's how we're designed. Like, you're going to experience it. So if something didn't happen, if nothing changed and you feel some type of way, it's likely the energy center just doing what it do. And it's cool too. Like, when you recognize that, then you don't have to try to fix something. You just let it be and just be okay. So I could really talk a lot longer about all of that. But just start to note that my tip is just notice what you're attracting, and notice if it matches what your conscious desires are. And if there's a gap or a conflict, or it just doesn't match, then there's probably something in the energetic body that needs to be cleared. There are a lot of us out here doing energy clearing. Find someone that resonates with you, and holds the proper space for you and is very authentic and pure in what they're doing as well. Because yeah, that's some sacred work, which I love doing. So we are at time. Thank you for hanging out with me for 30 minutes. And I hope you got a lot of good nuggets. Honestly, feel free to share what nuggets you have as well. I probably could have talked longer now that I'm looking at some of these things. I'm like, oh man, I could have talked longer. But all that said, thank you so much for hanging out with me, spending your precious time and space and energy hanging and getting some tips. Um, yeah, share it with someone who could benefit as well. And for now, uh, make sure you create the most amazing rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now. Mwah. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you enjoyed the show and got a lot of good information. Be sure to like, subscribe, tap the bell so you know when we air again. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week.